Welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we're on a bit of a mission. We're taking the huge, sometimes confusing world of Python string documentation and boiling it down.
Exactly. We're turning it into a pristine, actionable formula sheet.
The target here is pure efficiency. We're going to distill the absolute essentials, the string methods that really unlock validation, manipulation.
And then apply them directly to a classic cryptography problem.
The Caesar cipher.
This is meant to be your condensed reference, something designed for, immediate recall, not just learning from scratch. We've structured it like a precision tool.
So we'll start with a few logical buckets for the methods.
Yep, we'll go through conversions, checks, and then operations. After that, we'll use the most critical function from that last group, the index method, to really deconstruct the logic that powers the whole Caesar cipher.
Perfect. But before we even start, let's just nail down the one piece of syntax that rules everything today. It's always variable.methods.
Sounds basic, but it's so important.
It is. And the key thing for your revision notes is that you absolutely cannot forget those parentheses at the end. Without them, you're not actually telling Python to run the code.
You're just referencing the method itself. Nothing happens.
It's rule number one, written in stone.
Precisely. And our first type 1 methods, they're all about just standardizing how your string data looks. We call them the conversion methods.
Okay, so there are 5 main players here, but let's focus on utility, not just definitions. I mean, everyone knows lower and upper.
They're the workhorses for sure.
Right, you use them for normalization. If you're comparing what 2 different users typed in or checking a password, you almost always use lower first, just to stop case mismatches from causing errors.
Right, but the real nuance comes in with the other 3.
Yeah.
You've got capitalize.
And that's for what, strict sentence case?
Exactly. It makes only the very first character of the entire string capital and forces everything else to be small.
Okay, and then you have the formatting champion title. This one's a bit different.
Yeah, this one is essential for things like display names because it makes sure the first character of every single word gets capitalized.
And the source material really emphasizes that distinction, right? The difference between capitalize for the whole sentence and title for each word is apparently a common test question.
It is. And then there's the last one, the most flamboyant one, swap case.
Ah, I like that. It just flips everything.
Totally flips it. So in our example string, this is my name, which has that weird mix of cases, swap case, we just invert every single letter. Capital T becomes small h becomes a capital H, and so on.
You know, swap case seems great for making like a parody username or something.
It does. But
Yeah.
seriously, the sources mentioned it had some niche uses in, like old networking protocols where byte streams needed to be inverted.
But for a formula sheet today, the takeaway is that while all 5 exist, you're really going to be using lower and upper 99% of the time.
Absolutely. For standardizing data, they're the ones.
Okay, let's move to type 2, the check methods. These are all about validation.
And they all share one key trait. They are incredibly strict auditors.
They just give you a Boolean back, right? A straight true or false.
Exactly. And there are 0 exceptions. The first pair is lower and is upper. They mirror the conversion methods we just talked about.
But with a critical difference.
A huge one. They are all or nothing checks. For is lower, to return true, every single letter in that string has to be lowercase.
So if you have hello world with a capital W,
It returns false instantly. The space gets ignored, but that one capital W is enough to fail the entire check. That kind of strictness is vital in, say, security contexts.
makes sense. You've also got istitle, which checks for proper title case formatting, but the real landmines in this section are the data type checks. Let's talk about isDigit.
This is probably one of the biggest pitfalls we found in the source material, isDigit. Checks if the string is only digits, nothing else.
And the trap is that Python is super literal about what a digit is.
Very literal. If your string has any kind of non-digit separator, a comma, a period, a hyphen like in a phone number isDigit, will immediately say false.
Wait, so if I have a string like 1,000 or maybe a price like 10.50, I can't use isDigit to check if it's a number?
Nope, absolutely not. It sees that comma or that decimal point as a non-numeric character.
So for the revision notes, the process has to be, first, you strip out all the separators, and then you run the check.
You have to. You're forced to create a pure digit string first. It's demanding that purity before it will validate.
And that idea of purity, it continues with isalpha, which checks for only letters.
And again, there's a gotcha that feels counterintuitive.
The space character.
You get a space character. It's considered a special character, not an alphabet. So if you try to validate a full name, like Jane Doe.
The space in the middle makes the shilfa return false.
Exactly. So if you want to validate a name, you either have to, split it by the space and check each word, or use something like the replace method to take the spaces out before you check.
So the big takeaway for all these Boolean checks is that the presence of any unexpected character just invalidates the whole string. They demand a level of cleanliness that usually means you have to pre-process the data first.
And if you need to check for a mix, like for letters and numbers, you use isolnem. The source material pointed this out for things like tax IDs or product codes. But again,
you have to strip out the punctuation first.
Always. You're checking for letters and numbers and absolutely nothing else.
Okay, let's shift gears.
Right, into type 3 and 5, the operational methods. These are the ones that actually let us modify or analyze substrings. We'll start with the stripping functions from type 3.
Okay, so we've got 3 flavors here. There's strip, which is kind of the default cleaner.
It removes characters from both the left and the right sides.
Then you have ilstrip for left side only, and firstrip for the right side.
The classic use for strip is just getting rid of accidental white space, right? A user types their name and hits the space bar at the end by mistake.
Yeah, but the source material points out its power to remove specified characters. Using that example, developer at Harsh cheat. If you tell strip to look for the @ symbol,
it'll pull them off both ends.
But, and this is a critical detail for the revision sheet, it only works on the boundaries.
Exactly. If that @ symbol was in the middle of developer at Harsh, strip would leave it alone completely. It is strictly a boundary cleaner.
Got it. And sticking with boundaries, we have the location checks, starts with and ends with.
These are key for validating any kind of structured input.
Right. Think about like API keys or file naming rules. If an API key has to start with key, then starts with key is the perfect tool for the job.
And it's crucial to remember these are totally case sensitive. They can also check for a whole substring, not just one letter.
So if your username has to end with shukla with a capital S, the check will fail if the input is all lowercase shukla.
Precisely. Now, for our formula sheet mission, we're actually going to jump over type 4. Those are search methods like find. They're useful, but they aren't the linchpin for where we're going. We're heading straight to type 5, the cipher critical functions.
This is the group that really sets the stage for the cryptography part. We have 3 here. First is count, which is pretty straightforward.
It just tells you how many times a character shows up.
Yep.
Like counting M in Malayalam gives you 2. Simple as that.
Then there's replace, your basic find and replace command. Great for cleaning data.
But the real cornerstone for the Caesar cipher, the function that lets us turn letters into numbers we can actually work with, is index.
This one gives you the position number of the first time a character appears. And we have to remember Python indexing starts at 0.
Right. Index is the bridge between text and math.
Okay, so the toolbox is full. Now for the fun part, applying index to actually solve this cryptographic rotation problem. Let's get into the Caesar cipher.
The Caesar cipher is really just simple substitution. You use a fixed shift, which we can call K. So if K is 1, H shifts 1 spot to I, A shifts to B, and so on.
So the goal is to map one letter to another mathematically based on its position.
Exactly. And to build that logic, we need 4 things in our code. First, the original string, let's call it S.
2, our reference point. That's the full lowercase alphabet. We'll call it alpha, all 26 letters.
3, the shift value, K. And 4, a result variable, T, which has to start as an empty string. That's where we'll build the new encrypted text.
And the whole process starts with index.
It has to. For every single character in our original string S, we have to find its starting number in that alpha reference string.
So for the name Harsh, we start with H. We'd run alpha.index.
H. Since H is the 8th letter, but we start counting at 0, that gives us the integer 7.
Okay, so then we just add the shift value. If our K is 1, we take index 7, add 1, and we get 8.
And index 8 in the alphabet is I. It works perfectly.
Until you get to the end of the alphabet.
Yes. That's the big weakness if you don't have a rotation mechanism. If you're on the letter Z at index 25 and your shift is 1, your new raw index is 26.
And if you try to find the character at position 26...
the code crashes. You get an index out of range error, and the whole cipher just breaks.
But the solution is actually really elegant. It's all math.
Specifically, the modulo 26 operation. In Python, that's the % sign, %26. This is what sews the end of the alphabet back to the beginning.
Modulos is just finding the remainder after division.
That's all it is. So if our raw index is 26, From z plus 1, we calculate 26 modulo 26. Well, 26 goes into 26 one time with a remainder of
0.
0. And index 0 is a. It wraps us right back around to the start perfectly.
And if the shift was bigger, say k equals 2 on z, the raw index would be 27.
And 27 modulo 26 leaves a remainder of 1. Index 1 is b. The modular math gives us that rotation, and it guarantees our final index will always be a valid number between 0 and 25.
Okay. This feels like the moment for the ultimate revision sheet entry, the single composite formula that does all of this.
Let's break it down. There are 4 stages that happen inside one line of code. Work from the inside out.
Step 1. Get the character's original index. That's alpha.index, AAS. It gives you an integer, like 7 for h.
Step 2. Apply the shift. We add k. So, index plus k. In our example, 7 plus 1 is 8. This is the raw, unrotated index. Those parentheses are really important to make sure the addition happens first.
Step 3. Apply rotation. That's the modulo part. Index plus k, 26. This is what guarantees we stay within the 0 to 25 range.
And finally, step 4. You use that new final index to look up the new character in the alpha string. Alpha result is step 3. Index 8 gives us I.
So the complete one-liner for the revision sheet is alpha.index as plus k plus 26. That one line is the entire logic of substitution and rotation.
And once you generate that new character, I for H, B for A, and so on, the very last step is just to add it to your result string, T. You just use concatenation. T equals T plus the new character. And that's how you build the final ciphertext.
Wow. Okay, that was a really fast but dense deep dive. And we focused only on what you need for that revision sheet. We covered conversions for normalization.
We spent a lot of time on the check methods, especially the gotchas with spaces in ICE alpha and separators in this digit, that whole concept of string purity.
Right. And most importantly, we detailed the operational functions, showing how index gives us the numerical context we need for cryptography.
And then we broke down the Caesar cipher itself, highlighting how that modulo operator, the %26, is the elegant fix for the index out-of-range problem.
So we've talked a lot about how these methods are case-sensitive. The logic we just built works perfectly for our lowercase alpha string. But here's the final thought for you to chew on. Considering that case sensitivity, how would you adjust that composite formula, using another method we talked about today, to correctly handle capital letters in the original input string? How do you make sure they still map correctly within that 26-character lowercase alphabet? That's your next challenge.